welcome back to the Coach's Hour, the podcast dedicated in helping you become the best coach possible. You're here with myself, Hym, and my co-host is Jewade Graham. So in this industry, it's often that you do get criticised, and it's more about when than never. And when it happens, it's definitely not private. It's public, and everybody has an opinion. So today we're joined by Paul Standell, someone who's been on the receiving end maybe more than once. So today's episode...
And the giving end as well.
That sounds questionable.
Yeah, on the giving end as well. You called out someone the other day and I was here for it. A client, an ex-client.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was here for it. I was here for it. Yeah, you forgot I didn't. I was like, saucy.
Oh, yeah, he deserved that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I stalked him a little bit. So I didn't
Done
comment.
It to too many people.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So today's episode, we're going to be talking about our experiences and what we recommend for those listening who might be scared of this happening. But before we get into it, please do us a favor. If you've ever taken anything useful from this podcast, if you even learned one thing, or you just think that, one of us and Paul, top G's, please go and leave a 5-star review. We're out here telling you our darkest secrets to benefit you. So do a little something for us. Like it, rate it, tell a friend, and we'll love you long time. So with that out of the way, let us begin. So where do we want to start? Do you want to start with Paul's experience?
Yeah, so we'll preface it to begin with, because this guy, it's been a would you call it a feud?
No, I wouldn't call it a feud.
What does a feud classify as? Because
it's a war of Helm's Deep.
Yeah, exactly. Because I come across,
as long as I'm not the orcs in that, then we're fine.
Because I come across this person a couple of years ago when he come for me, and it was like when I was a little bit more inexperienced, and in general I don't really care about stuff like that. So but I know since then there's been one more time that I know of where you've had a bit of back and forth, and I feel like in that specific scenario it wasn't warranted, and in other scenarios it maybe is warranted, but I still feel and not just by this person, by the way. Even if it is warranted, I still believe in general there is a way to go about it. And I believe I would prefer if someone it can get public, but it shouldn't start public. And I'm not sure if your scenario did, so we'll get the backstory in a minute, but it felt like from the outside it started publicly, where it could have just been a little private DM. Hi mate, I saw this. This is what I think about this, rather than straight away making a post that you're potentially not expecting and you're waking up to hang on, what's this?
I've gone viral.
Yeah. For me, I'll say, what's this dickhead doing? And I'm not saying he is, but in that scenario, to me, he would be, because you haven't gone about it the right way.
So,
let's give a bit of context to it. What actually kind of happened, what was the post and whatever.
Well, we may as well say, no one likes the half fucking...
Yeah, well, you got politically correct, I don't mind being cancelled.
No. So,
we're
talking Cass, right? And in fairness, I have no qualms with the post he did. In fairness, I think if you're gonna put out informative content to a public domain, you are gonna get people critique that and comment on it and all the rest, and that's just par for the course. And this critique was of a demonstration with a skeleton of what glute med does when you come up into hip flexion versus when you're in sort of a hip neutral leg, just not moving microphone over, versus where your leg is just down in a standing position. And his criticism, well, let me walk through the thing. So the video comes from a very short series of videos in a course we have for Pure Gym that's called Gym Floor Mastery. And that course exists for trainers who work at Pure Gym to improve their skills on the gym floor and to start to have a business. So the essence of the idea behind the course is that your job is to help 2 people every day that you don't know on the gym floor say some version of, oh, that feels better, and ask them about PT, right? So 2 a day, 10 a week, 40 a month, 480 a year with 4 weeks off. If you can't get 20 clients from that, something's gone really wrong. So that's the essence of the course. So then you need a few skills in order to be able to do that. Now, in any online short course like this, you can't give people all the skills they're going to need to be able to actually do that. So you give them a few easier ones. So there's a few basic tweaks. Playing with a heel raise on a squat, playing with width of stance and turnout amount, and loading it in the front versus sticking a barbell on the back and going, We're just trying to find what feels better for your client to do. And these are my 3 favorite ways to teach the hinge. And this is some stuff to do with a push and blah, blah, blah. And so the essence of the course is a few usable things that people can do with some exercises. The premise of you need to go and help 2 people every day and ask them about PT. And within that course, I wanted to put in a small section of going, look, this is just the beginning of all the stuff you're going to need to know in order to make this career work. So I need you to learn anatomy at some point. There is no app, there is no textbook that will help you learn anatomy properly. What you need to do is get a skeleton, stick some balloons on it. Then you can have an app and a textbook and you can move it around because things do different stuff when we move into different positions. So we're going to look at 3 muscles just to look at how they might vary based on what we do. So I think there's the bicep, the lat, and glute med.
The lat's giving me
They're the 3 that I went with. And so the glute med one is going, look, it's an abductor of the leg when we're in this hip neutral position. When we come up into hip flexion, it becomes more of an internal rotator of the hip. And look, you can see it with a balloon. Ta-da, there you go, by a skeleton. That's the whole point of that video. There's no great depth to it. It's not a thorough analysis of what glute med does. Don't know how he managed to get the video, right? So he then made a reaction video to that going, well, actually, the posterior fibers of glute med still maintain a bit more of a horizontal component. So as that leg comes up to here, they are going to be involved in abduction this way. And they're not just an internal rotator. They will do this if we went and sat on a hip abduction machine or something like that. And he's right. That is true. And so I actually had no problem with the video on that because I can't sit here and say that he's wrong. He's not wrong. He's right. So I don't mind that because I think that's fair. I minded being what I would call taken out of context and almost made to sound like I just didn't know that. It's like, well, no, but that's an irrelevant point for the level of thing that we're talking about and the trainer we're talking to. Going into more detail, that's not what this thing is. This is just by a skeleton. It'll teach you more stuff, right? Look, things change. Oh, the textbook wouldn't have told me that. It's not as part of a big course really exploring what that stuff does. And so I think we just had a little back and forth in the DM. So I was like, and the thing I found difficult was like, I explicitly said, you're correct. I left it out because of this. And also, well, the amount that these fibers are going to be able to work in this plane is going to be dependent on, the height of this greater trochanter attachment point and where this part of the iliac crest is actually going to sit, right? So if they're more like this, a bit more horizontal, then there's going to be more in the plane. If they were a bit more like that, it's going to be a bit less effective at abduction in that thing. So there will be some variety based on structure and blah, blah, blah. He didn't seem to, I think he treated my reply as though I was saying he was wrong. And I was like, but I specifically said you were right. And so if I have a difficulty with Cass at times, it's in the way he chooses to communicate and can come across as holier than thou a little bit within things. And I don't think he has the most generosity of spirit to other coaches. And I think that's a failing as a person type issue. I'm sure he'll take offense to that and fine. I mean, me and him have had plenty of back and forths, and I've recorded podcasts with him and we've done stuff. And look, every time I go, he has good things to offer the industry, and that's true. But I still often find his way of communicating to be frustrating and, do I want to say judgy? Maybe judgy, I suppose. What I find it to be is less helpful than I think he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with him afterwards? Okay.
Yeah.
Was just like a call, or was it like just
a bunch of back and forths in the DMs? I recorded a 30-minute Loom video that I sent to him, kind of outlining where this was from, and then he still sent back a big bit, and I was like, "You're not listening to really what I'm saying in the slightest here," and I can't be asked anymore, because I don't know what his end game that he wants out of that really is. So I dislike being misrepresented, and I dislike being made to look like I don't know what I'm talking about to some degree, which is a bit annoying. I remember someone in the comments being like, someone needs to learn vector analysis. And I was like, don't get fucked. I know how to do vector analysis.
But like, even if like, because I don't know how to do vector analysis and I don't know who that person was, but I'd be willing to bet I get better results than they do from my context. And I'll say,
but that would be us being defensive.
And
do you know what I mean?
And like I say that because from my experience, the reason why I didn't like that specific scenario, I won't say the person because it's not him, it's the scenario that I'm going for now, is the fact that like we can know a lot about vectors, muscle function. We should know some of that stuff, if not all of that stuff. But if we've got an hour with a person, we're not going to see the glute med. We have to make a judgment on the applicability within that hour that we have, that has the outcome of that. Like the result likely, not in all cases, but likely wouldn't come down to one specific muscle attachment. And that's not me saying that you shouldn't know about that, but it's like, from my perspective, it sounds like a lot of people say this from the armchairs, where when you're actually in a session with a person, it's a lot more difficult than to have the argument to say, okay, then we have to look at the posterior fibers of whatever muscle it is. Yes, we might in the back of our mind have a concept of, okay, that might be at play here, but it's so challenging when you're actually practically doing something than when you're on a textbook. And I might be wrong with that, but that's what it feels like to me. It's like,
I think that's probably a slightly different thing on one level than his criticism of the issue, because most PTs don't know any anatomy.
Yeah,
they don't know any anatomy, right? Like, which is why I wouldn't talk in detail about the subtler parts of anatomy unless I was doing a genuine anatomy course. And in fairness, Cass's audience are more into that, and so it's a perfectly good thing for him to have made. Again, no qualms. He's not wrong in what he put in that thing. So then the applicability of it, there is applicability. If I've got a greater trochanter that was here and is now spun this way, and is, okay, anything with an attachment this side of it has a point that it's going to pull in this direction. It's going to, as long as it's not directly above or below it, or this side of it, it will pull that way a little bit. It will have a component of its force in that direction. And so that's all true. And if you then ask, I need to maximize the amount of abduction force I have in that position, all of those guys are likely to be recruited to some degree unless one of their other functions goes against the other tasks being required in the exercise. So, if I was to say that those posterior guys, yes, they're abductors, not even the posterior guys, more of that muscle is a horizontal abductor, but it's also an internal rotator. So if I did horizontal abduction while externally rotating, I would expect less of those fibers because I'm doing a secondary function of the hip that goes counter to what that thing is trying to do. And so it wouldn't make much sense for the body to hard contract that, because one of the functions is opposing what's trying to happen. So if there are other horizontal abductors that do not do internal rotation, but do a little bit of external rotation or none of that, I would expect to see more of those things. That's all fine. Like we can play that game and have those conversations. What do you do with that information depends on the client and what that person in front of you wants and wants out of it. Like I would want a PT to be able to see the iliac crest, and can they find the ASIS and maybe get round to the PSIS and go, all right, well, from the front of here, I'm going to have some kind of glute medi stuff, and then, min stuff, and then I'm going to get towards a glute med that's going to come all the way around here. Can they, yeah, I would like that. Can they feel the greater trochanter? I would like that if you're going to be a great coach. Because you could use that information in a gym setting. You don't need to be like getting your protractor out and being like the most hyper specific with it. But
that's for me what it sounds. And I might have the wrong context, but that's for me what it sounds like. And I get with like you can feel it, but I can feel it on me. But I'm sub 20% body fat.
Show off.
But that's what I mean. Like, because I take it like in layman's terms because I'm not the most knowledgeable. So I'm like, and for me, the biggest thing that I take from a lot of the things I learn and choose to spend my time doing, it's the applicability of it. And I'm not saying that just because I can't apply it at the moment doesn't mean it's not beneficial. But I do feel like you said, the angle of a great trochanter, for example, yes, you might be able to feel it. But if a client has a level of body fat where you can't feel it, it's just our best guesstimate anyway. And if that's the case, is that level of detail then needed to...
That depends on what the claim is initially. If his position is, my claim was that there is no glute med in horizontal abduction in hip flexion, then I am wrong, because that's wrong. There is going to be contribution from glute med there. I would never say that there isn't, would be the thing. And that's the issue, is the video's taken from not understanding what that is. But could people see that video if they saw it and therefore conclude that there would be no part of that muscle doing that? Yeah, they could. They could. And therefore, that would be poor communication on my part. And I would, if that's the case, I'd be like, yeah, I would be wrong if that was my point. So I can't criticize him for that because he's not wrong. So again, I think with some of this stuff, it's not necessarily what's said, it's sometimes how it's said. And for me, it fails the criteria that I've said before of your job is not to be right, it's to be helpful if you're a coach. And that's, I think in the education space at large, there's a lot of being right, not necessarily always being helpful. But if I was to steel man the opposite position, you should not say that there would be no glute med growth from doing seated hip abduction in hip flexion, because that wouldn't be true. So applicability would mean, well, are you trying to grow glute med, especially this area maybe? You go, well, then that should be potentially in your arsenal. And that has applicability, in fairness.
Yeah, and when I say applicability, I mean it's obviously context and person dependent. And I think, going a little bit off topic, like my biggest issue when I actually think about it wasn't anything to do with what he said. It was more so like I haven't called people out really, I've called concepts out. And that's the biggest difference, because I feel like whatever point he made was valid, but I did not take that point in just because he attached a person to it. And I like,
yeah.
But did he never really actually attacked you, I guess.
Not massively.
It's still about the.
And in fact, in that post, I think he actually said Paul's actually one of the good guys, and blah, 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 blah. So I shouldn't say that about him.
So when I say attached it, like for me personally, and this is my own personal thing, because like when I mention a name, I think I've only done it once with Charlie Johnson the other day. But when I mention a name,
best mate.
Yeah. But like, so like if I see something I don't like, or not even if I don't like, I'm not saying he doesn't like it, but if I see something that I'm going to maybe critique or have an opinion on, I will try my best to not attach someone to it just because I know it can get misconstrued. He may not have meant any harm by it, but for me, when someone attaches a face to it, it's like, that's where it becomes a little bit more personal, even when it's not.
Yeah, look, it's because it will always be. It's really difficult to separate yourself out from the concept you're talking about. Yeah. If you're the one that it's being reacted to, it's always going to feel like this isn't an attack on the person. It's like they're going to feel like it is.
Yeah, exactly. You got my face on it, like.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of, I think, doing this job and putting stuff out. And so I can't. I've done reaction videos to people in the past. I haven't done one for a long time. I can't sit here and say I would never do one again, because I don't think that would be right either. And social media works on attention, and it's funny when people mock people, right? And so I like it when I see morons being like, look at this dickhead, occasionally, right? And so I can't on one hand enjoy reaction videos myself, right? And then also go, but don't do it to me, right? Like that's not right. So again, I try to be reasonable with all this stuff and go, I don't have like a fucking beef here or anything else. I'm just like, I don't even mind having made the reaction video. I'm just like, dude, just meet me a little bit with the actual kind of discussion afterwards and hear what I'm saying. And I don't think he does that well.
Yeah.
Has it kind of changed the way that you are now? Like in terms of when you get a video, like a reaction video, does it change, like, oh, maybe I need to put in more detail, maybe I need to double check my work, or things like that?
Probably not for me. I mean, first off, that video is like 2 years old because we recorded that course bloody ages ago. So I was like, where the fuck's this come from?
And he snaked you. Give it him.
I thought, was it not a post that you posted?
No, well, so this is the thing, and it says it in the caption, but it was Pure Jim posted it and just tagged me or invited me or did whatever, and I just was like, accept. I didn't read a damn thing. So in fairness, maybe it would make me, if I was doing a collaboration with a company like that, maybe I would check the caption a bit more, because it did say, it was more conclusive in the caption, I think. Kind of thing. Okay. So again, like, fair play. So maybe there's a lesson in that part, but ultimately, you always have to keep in mind who is your audience and what is the message you're trying to get across. And you can't have every point in one social media post. Can't even have every point in an hour-long YouTube video, right? So like you have to accept the medium and the audience and go, what is this thing? That doesn't mean don't strive for decent quality information and just say bollocks. It doesn't, of course it doesn't mean that. But it does mean you have to be okay with going, not everyone is going to fully agree with what's come out, or, but what about this? And but what about that? Yes, those things can be true. But if you try and caveat lots of different stuff in a point, you'll lose people. Like you just will. If you're teaching mechanicsy stuff to someone who's first new to this and they're just trying to get to grips with what a moment arm is or something like that, and you start talking about component forces and what this moment does, not just in the sagittal plane, but the frontal and the transverse simultaneously, and co-contractions of other muscles and what might they be doing, and secondary joint considerations within that, you're being an idiot as a teacher, because you are just going, look what I know, here's me wanking over this. You're not helping the person in front of you. So what's the point of the video? If you try and have it set up so that all my content is so that other coaches are really impressed by what I say and can't pick any holes in it, well, is your audience a bunch of other coaches that you're educating? Because if it isn't, you're doing stuff that isn't helpful to the audience that you actually have. And so for Cass's audience, it makes complete sense to do that kind of thing. It just does. It annoyed me more that fucking Brett Contreras posted on it, like, these guys just don't know what they're talking about. I was like, fuck you, Brett.
These Brits.
Yeah, I was like, fuck off. Right?
Let us down, poor man.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it's bullshit. So your ego takes a bit.
Why are you getting involved?
Yeah, I was like, your ego takes a hit because you're like, this person, I've got your Glute Lab book on my fucking shelf and blah, blah, blah. He thinks I'm going to be an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. So you don't, we all have a bit of pride and ego, and you spent a long time trying to get somewhere in the industry. So when you feel like you're a bit misrepresented that way, that bugged me. But I can get over it because I'm like, it's fine and it's all contextual. So, it's okay. Like, I don't think, Churchill had, I think, a good line of like, the only way to not be criticized is to do nothing, be nothing, and say nothing. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty true for the social media era as
Should
well.
Be criticized for that, man.
Yeah,
why are you not posting?
Yeah, that's true.
It's your business.
Yeah, so your early years should definitely be spent trying to get a lot better. Not even just your early years. You should always be trying to kind of get better. And you should strive to put out useful stuff. But useful depends on who the audience is. And if you ask me, given the context of that video and the course that it exists within and everything else, would I change it? Would I say anything differently, really? No, not really, because I don't think it would be relevant. I'd be putting in, but by the way, also some of these guys do other functions. What's the point of the video? It's to get beginner trainers who don't know any anatomy to buy a skeleton. That's the point of that video. Mm-hmm. In that context, all I need to show is that it does something different in this position versus this position. And I'm okay with that being the point, right? So yeah, I don't think it's changed too much for me on that regard, because I'm reasonably secure in what I feel like I know, what I'm good at, what I can help people with. And I also accept and understand that reaction videos are a part of the internet, and there wasn't anything directly wrong with what Cass did or said in that reaction video.